evolution of sound.
Beep, what's up ninjas? How to make sure your track is mono compatible. This is one of the biggest questions that I can ever answer for you guys, because it could be the thing that makes your track either sound flappy in the club bad or sound big and huge. Now, in order to tackle this question, we first need to understand what mono and stereo mean, and for doing that, we're going to utilize this project file from Revealed Revolution, which is a pack that I made called the Ultimate Reveal Recording Sample / Sound Bank. Comes with a lot of stuff. You guys can check it in the link in the in the description below. If you guys want to support it, it helps the channel out a lot. A lot of you guys have supported already. The price is at 35 right now, and it's going to jump to 60 or 70 in the next coming days. So make sure to get it before that happens, because obviously that's a huge price increase. So I'm going to be playing the drop that we made for that project file, which sounds like this. So let's say this is what we have, right? You're making a track and this is what you have. You're at the final portions of your track and now you're like, is it mono compatible? Well, the way to check really is just to put your track in mono. You go to the master, you can find the utility in Ableton and put it in mono and put it in here and then play it. Now, this is what stereo and mono sounds like if you guys have ever wondered. This is stereo and this is mono. Now you might be going, Samuel, why would anyone want to play your track in mono? It sounds way worse. Well, the reason is because at a club, they have a lot of speakers placed up, and they can't really decide what speaker is the left and what is the right. And if they decide to put speakers maybe in other parts of the club, then, they can't account for the left and right being in the right position. So in order to avoid that, they have it in mono, where each speaker is going to play the same thing, because in mono, we're not really going to have a left or a right. Okay, now the next thing is gonna be, okay, what is it being mono compatible? Sen, I like my sounds wide. I like my sounds wide. All right, guys. So there's a reason why people are always going like, don't widen your track that much, because it's gonna sound out of fit. It's gonna sound shitty in mono, and then they're like, you're gonna make it out of phase, and you're like, Sam, what does out of phase mean? This term is always thrown around by Martin Borwick's tips, but they never fucking explain it. Let me explain what out of phase means to you right now. It's literally the simplest thing, guys, and it literally makes the biggest thing, biggest difference. Here we have two snares, which are the same snares, right? In stereo, if you were to have a snare that's in stereo, that just means there's a left and a right channel to it, which together they sound like this. Fairly simple, right? Now, when you put something out of phase, that just means that they're not playing in sync. You have a left and a right, but they're not playing at the same time. But then when you do this, when they're not playing at the same time, this is where stereo wideness is created. Now you're like, Samuel, what's that look on your face, Samuel? Well, the reason is because this is the trick. This is why you cannot have something be really wide. Wideness means that something is just out of phase. The more wide something sounds to you, the more out of phase it is. And you're like, but I've been widening all my stuff, Samuel. Well, yes, check this out. We have this cool feature in Ableton that's called the delay feature. So here I have my right channel, and I'm going to delay just a couple of milliseconds. And look what happens to the sound. This is by itself, let's say without it. Now let's add that. What sounds wider? Like, what sounds wider to you? Let's go back. Or obviously the one that's delayed, right? So technically what Ableton's doing right now is literally it's just saying, oh, okay, Samuel, you don't want them to play at the same time? Well, let me move that for you a bit. And then it's doing this. See, if I do this and I play it right now, we still get the same effect. Now, this sounds fine, but let's say that I decide to put this, into mono, then we're not going to be able to hear it because we only have the left channel that's in sync and the right channel is going to collapse. And then what's going to happen is you're going to have a snare that sounds like shit, like a pile of shit, just that. So that's why you don't have to widen a lot of things. Now you can still widen stuff, but you just got to make sure to kind of reinforce it in the mono in the center of the mix. Now what does this mean? All right, so here we have a couple of leads that we have for Revealed Revolution. Again, the pack is up for sale, guys. $35. Get it before it goes to 60. Now here are the leads for the drop. Now, one of the things that you can do to instantly just make it better is make sure that you have some stereo signals. You can see this is very stereo. And then have one set to mono, like this one is the mono signal coming from the center. So if all of these fuck up and fail to transcribe into mono, at least this one is going to hold up its own because we have one set to mono specifically. Now, the other thing is going to be not to widen stuff a lot, and if you do, just make sure that you're reinforcing it with some mono signals like that. Very simple. The next and final thing I want to show you guys is going to be that you can set your track to mono and stereo, you know, just as you're working to make sure that it sounds good in mono. And the last thing, in order to avoid doing that, is picking up the Ozone Imager. Now, the Ozone Imager has a very cool feature that I like to use. I even used it when I was making this project file, transcribing it from FL Studio to Ableton, because Ralph. And yes, it's meant to sound like Ollie James and all that stuff. So here we're gonna see, you know, we have our vector scope, which measures, you know, measures how wide something is. But the thing that you need to look at is this thing over here, +1 and -1 and 0. Now, I don't want to bore you with the science of this, but pretty much if it's above 0, you're good. But if it goes below -1, then that's when you have problems, because that means your track it's out of phase. It doesn't sound good. Also, you're gonna see stuff here on the sides now and then, like there. You don't want that to really go over here and clip, and none in the center, because then again your track's not gonna sound good in mono. Then we have this one here, which is just a standard one that you might see in some old school analog stuff. So that's going to be my answer to your question, how to make sure everything is mono compatible. If you widen stuff, make sure you have something in mono to reinforce it, just in case, you know, someone hears it in mono, your bass still sounds powerful. Fairly simple question to a fairly simple answer, but very complicated, as you can see. Anyways, guys, thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care and have an amazing day, my babies.